Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. If it looks like it's a mess in here, that's because it is. Things have been a little difficult lately. I just got home from, quite honestly, the worst car ride of my entire life. We went to go get lunch with Charles because I was like, this will be fun. I'll take the boys, we'll go meet dad for lunch. Like, gonna be great, give me a nice reset for the day. I did a lot this morning, so I was like, I could use the break. No, that was a mistake because the entire car ride home was screaming chaos. I've never heard Graham cry like this, and it was just insane. And he kept shoving his like hands so far into his mouth that he was like choking himself, and it was just like a whole thing. And then Bentley was screaming to try to compete with Graham's screaming, and then that was making Graham mad, so then Graham was screaming more, and it was wild, and it was the worst 20 minutes of my life. But we're home now, everybody is happy, everybody is sleeping, and I'm gonna try to film this as quickly as I can. We have a lot to do in a very short amount of time, and I need to kind of start packing and stuff, so all of that is probably really about to ramp up, and a lot of my like vlogs are going to be like packing vlogs and things like that. But for this week, I'm going to keep it nice and simple, and I'm just going to do a little Q&A. So the other day I asked you guys on Instagram to send me questions. The first one says your age. People actually ask me this all the time. Y'all, I'm 23. People always think that I'm younger than that, especially on like all of my YouTube shorts. People are always like, how old are you? You look so young. I'm 23, and thank you. Let's see, was there anything you did or experienced differently with baby G to avoid PPD? So I don't know if this is related, but it is something different. Last time, whenever I was postpartum with Bentley, at the 6-week postpartum mark, I started using medical marijuana again. In the past, I used it, like before my pregnancy, I used it for mental illness and was prescribed a medical card and used it for that. So went off of it for the pregnancy and birth and all of that. And then once I was postpartum, I think it was either 6 or 7 weeks that I started using it again. I started using it thinking it was going to help me, and honestly, in retrospect, I think that it made things worse. And I think that I was constantly like wanting that next nap so that I could go smoke, and I just felt like I was creating a very unhealthy like relationship with it as opposed to what it was before, and it was very unhealthy. So I don't talk about that very much because people have very loud opinions about stuff like that, but I haven't used it at all in a really long time now, and wasn't using it with this pregnancy. I haven't used it at all postpartum, and I feel like it's really made a huge difference. And it's also just allowed me the time to like self-reflect and figure out how to cope without a substance, you know what I mean? So in a hard moment, whenever I don't have the option to go just use something else, you know, it's helped me learn how to regulate my emotions a lot. So I think that that has helped not using that. But otherwise, I would say that I have put a lot more focus into self-care and self-love and things that are as simple as making the bed every day, or washing my face, or making sure that I brush my teeth, or making sure that I stay showered, you know. Like sometimes I stay up a little bit later at night to make sure that certain things get done, but it sets me up for a more successful day the next day instead of everything being piled up and just getting too overwhelming, if that makes sense. So I think that those two things have made the biggest difference. And also just the fact that it's not all foreign, and I'm also not setting myself up in such a vulnerable state on social media. Whereas last time I shared any and everything and every hardship I had, and then people would tear me apart for the things that I was struggling with, which made me struggle with them 10 times more. Keeping some things private, keeping some things to myself, and then just taking care of myself overall has made a huge difference. Okay, somebody said, what did you do to keep Bentley content at like 10 months old? So 10 months old was actually when we were coming out of a really bad regression with Bentley. He had a really bad regression from like 7 to 10 months old, and it was quite honestly the hardest part of his life so far, like as a parent. It was just the worst sleep regression, and just, it was so bad, and I don't even remember like why, or you know, like I think it was because he was trying to learn how to walk. I don't know, but it was really, really hard, and I don't think that there was really much that we could do to keep him content. Hold on, I think I got Graham back to sleep. I think I was just saying, like, I don't really know what we did to keep him content. We tried to just keep switching up his toys and kind of keep his toys on a rotation. I definitely used TV as a tool, but he's never really been one to care for TV, so that doesn't ever really help me. Lots of snacks. Otherwise, I don't really know. He was still using a binky at the time, so the binky helped a lot. 10 months is kind of when he really clung to it, but I don't really know. Just know that I hear you and I love you. I'm proud of you. Keep pushing. It will come to an end. It will get better. I love you, and you're doing everything you can, and that's all that anybody could ask of you. So next one, when did you start YouTube? So fun fact, I actually started YouTube way back in the day. Like, I'm not even kidding you, maybe middle school, but definitely high school. I was trying to make YouTube videos and I tried all kinds of different things. Like, I did vlogs, I did singing videos, and every single time I was embarrassed and cringing at myself. Those videos are long privated, so don't waste your time scrolling back because they're not there. Maybe one day I can do like a reacting to my privated YouTube videos if you want to see that. But like, it was me as a fucking chaotic, immature teenager trying to make vlogs and like thinking that I was like Emma Chamberlain. Like, I thought I was the shit. I thought I was so cool, and it is the most disgusting thing to watch. I hate it so much. But I deleted all those and stopped for a while, and then about halfway through this pregnancy with Graham is when I actually like started again and started being serious about it and posting consistently and posting shorts and then regular videos and finding a schedule that worked for me, which right now is once a week. For a little bit I was doing 2 videos a week, but I can't keep up with that right now. I'm way too busy. The 1 a week is a little bit difficult sometimes, but I started it really about halfway through my pregnancy, and that's when I was like taking it seriously, and that's whenever it started growing. Before then, I had maybe 200, 300 subscribers, something like that. And now we actually just hit 110,000 subscribers, which literally blows my mind. Like, I know people always say that. They're like, oh my God, I never thought this would happen. No, literally, I never thought this would happen. Like, it's wild to me. It's insane to me. I'm so grateful for all of you. And yeah, I guess if you have a dream, chase it and just, you know, keep going, be consistent, and you will start to see results. Let us see what's next. What are some things you regret or wish you did for your wedding? I don't know if I would say that I regret anything. Our wedding was beautiful and our wedding was the most perfect day. The only thing I guess I wish I would have done differently is I wish I would have spent the money on a videographer, because I really wish that we had a wedding video. All we have is photos and not that many. And sometimes I also wish that it would have been longer. We had a very, because we didn't elope, but we kind of did. Like, we didn't have our whole family there. We didn't have a whole bunch of friends. Like, it was literally maybe 20 people that were there. It was a very, very small wedding, and it was very, very quick. It was like 30 minutes, maybe an hour, and then we left and went to an Airbnb to like celebrate with our friends. But the time at our venue was really just like the ceremony and then like a little bit of stuff afterwards, like the first dance and stuff. But we didn't have speeches and we didn't have, you know, all of that. And so sometimes I wish that we would have done speeches, had a little bit more time, and had a videographer for it. But most of those things are just like for memories, and it's like I'm never gonna forget that day whether I have a video of it or not, you know. Like, it was still the most magical and perfect day, and I love the way it turned out. But if I had to go back in time and change something, that's what I would change. What scares you the most about moving across the country? So many things. So many things. One is the main thing is the move itself and the drive itself, and driving 26 hours with 2 kids, 2 dogs, and some guinea pigs. I don't know how we're gonna do it. It's gonna be so chaotic and awful, and we're gonna have to stop so many times. I have family in Indiana, so we're hoping that we can go from Oklahoma to Indiana, which is about halfway from Oklahoma to New Hampshire. We're hoping that on day 1 we can make it that far, and then stay in Indiana with family, and then stay there for a day and let the kids and dogs and whatnot be out of the car for a little bit. We're hoping to stay there for the day, visit with family, you know, and then after that proceed the rest of our journey to New Hampshire. I'm just very, very stressed about the car ride and the kids being cooped up. I'm really not that worried about the dogs. I think that they're gonna lay down and settle and be fine. We have multiple cars, so they're not all gonna be jammed into one car. But I'm just stressed about the drive itself. I'm stressed about how Bentley's gonna do. I'm stressed about how Graham's gonna do. It's weird because it's like right now Graham does okay in the car, but he's gonna be like 7 or 8 months old whenever we're doing that. So he's gonna be much more like alert, aware, awake more. And so he may not be as happy with the car. I don't know. I can't predict the future. But sometimes it's just hard to think of like how much developmentally happens between now and when we're leaving, that who knows how he's gonna do it. I want to get those things that hold like a tablet or iPad on the headrest to maybe help with Bentley, and maybe put like Bluey or Miss Rachel on or something, but I don't really think that that's gonna help all that much. So I'm a little worried about it, and I'm worried about, you know, like how often we're gonna have to stop and feed everybody and feed mainly Graham, because he's gonna be eating significantly more than what everybody else is eating. I'm gonna have snacks and water and all kinds of stuff in the car for Bentley, but we're gonna have to stop a lot, and I don't know how much time that's gonna add on to the drive, but it's really the drive that stresses me out the most. Other than that, it's just the logistics of like change of address and changing bank accounts, stuff like that. Just all of the logistics of it that are just so, like, what's the word, tedious. I'm not looking forward to that. Otherwise, it's just the overwhelm of having so much to pack. Like, we haven't even started yet. We literally have not started, and we need to start. But that's really, it's really the drive that stresses me out, and I just keep telling myself it's temporary stress for a lifetime of happiness. Like, once we get there and get past it, like, it's gonna be fine, it's gonna be good, it's a good change, it's something we have wanted for years, but the drive itself is so daunting. What is your favorite part of motherhood right now? That's a really good question, because right now has been a little bit difficult. I guess my favorite part of motherhood right now is watching like their development. I feel like that's always been my favorite part, is just like watching them like grow and turn into like literal little people, and not just, I'm one of those rare people that doesn't like the newborn stage. I don't like it. It's so difficult, and it's so, like, I don't know how to explain it. I just don't like the newborn stage. But like with Bentley, I love watching him learn new words and learn new skills, or come up with these little tricks, or do things that he thinks are funny, or start singing or dancing. Like, things like that are just so pure and so precious to me, and I just love seeing him come into his personality. And then it's the same thing with Graham. Like, he's learning new things and doing new things, and I just love seeing them like develop and grow and become their own people. And I cannot wait for them to start really having a bond when Graham is getting older, and when Graham can really kind of play with Bentley. I think that that's going to be so good for the both of them, and I'm so excited for that. So I would definitely say that my favorite part of motherhood is just like the milestones, the growth, and the development. Even though that comes with sleep regressions, it's still the best. How did you cope with night feeds for B&G? Okay, that's a good one. So with Bentley, I did a lot of the night feeds because I was doing much more breastfeeding, and so he would be in the bassinet and I would, you know, just grab him and feed him and then put him back. But it was really hard for me because I was always functioning on no sleep, and I was also struggling with PPD whenever I had, you know, only Bentley. So it was really hard to also be so sleep deprived. It just left me no room to like emotionally, mentally heal. So eventually we started switching to Charles doing kind of the overnight stuff, even though he also has to go to work and, you know, work a whole day. We both have to do stuff all day. Like, it's not so black and white, you know? And it came down to like, that was the way that he could help, you know? He can't help me during the day, so what he can do is help me at night. And so he started doing that, and it made a drastic improvement in both of our lives. Like, it's just been what works for us. And so then this time going into things with Graham, it's pretty much almost always been like that, except for right at the beginning whenever I was doing so much breastfeeding. He mainly takes a bottle now, so now it's a lot easier. But whenever he has, you know, those night wakings, there was a stretch there that he was sleeping through the night, but he's kind of in a 4-month sleep regression right now. So when he's been waking up at night, Charles will just grab a bottle, feed him, and put him right back to bed, and I don't even wake up. I have literally no clue when I wake up in the morning how many times Graham woke up, and I text him and I'm like, hey, how was last night? But there's no resentment, there's no like anger. Like, we both feel like we're equally contributing, and that's just benefited us a lot. So if your partner is willing and like happy to help in whatever way they can, then maybe your partner could help, you know, with night feeds. But that's what's worked for us. It's obviously different if you're breastfeeding, you know, like nursing, and you have to do the night feeds. But for us, if he's hungry, he eats, you know, and Charles does it overnight. How did you stop breast milk for B? Okay, that's also a good question, but it's a very simple answer for me that's probably not going to be helpful for you. But I got pregnant and my milk dried up. So I was breastfeeding him up until my doctor told me that I needed to stop because I was losing way too much weight and I wasn't holding on to my nutrition enough, and we had to make sure that the baby that I was pregnant with, now Graham, we had to make sure that he was getting everything that he needed, and my health was just plummeting, and I literally almost got hospitalized for how sick I was. If you've been around for a while, you remember all of that. But yeah, I was really sick, really not doing well, and my doctor was like, you need to stop, you know, for your health, for your baby's health, etc. I think he was already taking some formula at that point. It was just like kind of combo feeding and doing both, and so we just kind of I literally just stopped breastfeeding. I think I did it a little bit for the first feeding of the day for like, I don't know how long, but eventually I just stopped entirely. And my milk, I didn't have an issue with like my milk having to dry up because it was already drying up from being pregnant, so it just kind of like all worked itself out, and I didn't have to wean Bentley or anything like that because he already just like gradually did on his own because I didn't have the milk. So what advice would you give a mom of 2 close in age in finding who they are again? Ooh, that's a really good one. So I would say my best advice on how to find who you are again after having babies close in age is to allow but also almost force yourself to spend time with yourself. I know that sometimes schedules don't align and it's not always easy to like get time to yourself away from the babies, whether that's because you don't have a partner or because your partner's busy and you don't have, you know, aligning schedules where your partner can watch the baby, or you don't trust family, or you don't trust babysitters, like whatever your case may be. I understand that there's like scenarios where you just can't, but if you can, if you have somebody to watch your babies, take time to yourself, whether that's going to the gym or exploring new hobbies or dipping your toe back into the things that you used to love. Take the time to yourself, even if it's literally just taking a bubble bath, like taking a bubble bath, regrouping, like being just away and not responsible for the kids for even 30 minutes will give you so much clarity, in my opinion. And I feel like that helps so much, and it's something I didn't allow myself to do after my first because I was just like so like zoned in, and I was like, I cannot take my eyes off of him. This was partially with postpartum anxiety, but I was like, I cannot take my eyes off of him or he's gonna die. Like that's literally what I thought. I didn't allow myself the space to be myself and be anything outside of a mom. So this time I really prioritized like getting ready in the morning, or at any point in the day when I can get ready, and going to the gym or going out on dates with my husband and taking the kids over to their grandparents and stuff like that. And I feel like that's really helped me stay grounded this time. So if there's any way for you to kind of do that in any sense that relates to you, I would highly recommend that. What was the process like trying to find a new home while being states away? It's kind of complicated. We didn't buy from across the country. We're renting, but it's actually my mom's boyfriend's house, and he's moving in with my mom, and then we are renting out the house from them. It worked out really well, and it gives us like an amazing opportunity to get out there, and then once we're out there we can like look around and really get to know the area and get to know where in that area that we want to like be and put our roots down. But it was just an opportunity that we couldn't pass up, so it took all of the weight and stress off of our shoulders of having to find a place. We're so excited, but that was how it went for us. And then if we decide that we want to buy down the line, then we'll be there and we can look and find what we really want and make sure that it is all good, and then we could buy it. But we don't really have any like immediate intentions to buy. How did you get your first apartment? I have a job, but I'm still struggling to get the money. So I actually never lived in an apartment independently. I was in college, and then I was with Charles, and so we always had a dual income when we were finding an apartment. And I moved in with him whenever I dropped out of college. I moved in with him, and then when we moved into our first apartment together, it was like some crappy 1-bedroom apartment that was like $800 a month or something like that. So when we were splitting it, it was only $400 for each of us, which was much more doable. And we didn't have kids, we didn't have, you know, like we didn't have all of this stuff, so we were able to handle that and kind of like gradually climb the ladder, I guess, if you will. So that's where we were there for like a year, and then from there we moved into here, and here is more expensive, but it's a very different dynamic because he covers like all of our like base bills, and then like I cover extra spending, like if we go out to eat or when we get groceries or streaming services, like things like that, like all of the little extra things, like that's what I pay for in terms of bills, and also the car payment I pay for. But then things like rent and internet and like all of this stuff that's always the same every month, and water and electricity, like the things that we like have to have, he pays for. Because like we don't have to have Hulu, and if I needed to I could get. And the reason that we do that is because his income is stable and consistent and mine is not, and there's sometimes good months and sometimes bad months when it comes to like social media and influencing like compensation, I guess you would say. I can't rely on my income because I never know what it's gonna be. It's never the same thing, so that's why we do it that way. Every couple, every family is gonna be different in the way that they handle bills and handle rent. But for us, getting an apartment was not that bad at the beginning. We also live in a cheap area, like we live in Oklahoma, so it's pretty cheap in certain areas. So our first apartment was very affordable for us, and we have just, you know, gradually built from there. And Charles has also always been very good about, you know, leveling up in his career, I guess. I don't know, but yeah, I'm very grateful for him because I really don't know how my life would look without him. But yeah, I have 2 boys like you around the same age. Would you consider a third? I go back and forth on this. Sometimes I'm like, yes, absolutely, and sometimes I'm like, no, absolutely not. I definitely think that my answer for this is not anytime soon. We aren't ready to say that we're done. We don't want to do anything like drastic, like a vasectomy or anything like that, because we don't know if we're done. In 5 years, 10 years, who knows? We're still so young that it feels wrong to kind of make like a concrete decision, because it could change and our lives could be entirely different in 5 years. But right now, no. Right now, I do not want a third. I'm so happy and content with the 2 that we have, and I have no desire to have another baby right now. I just don't know if down the line I might, you know? Biggest piece of advice you would give to a teen mom who's struggling with her mental health? My biggest piece of advice that I would give you is to not be afraid to ask for help. Being a mom in and of itself is so hard, and so hard on your mental health, and a grown-ass woman needs help sometimes. So a teenager whose brain isn't fully, you know, developed yet, or who's going through all of these other things and a bunch of hormonal changes and just everything that's on your plate, like, ask for help. And that doesn't exactly just mean help with your baby, like help with you. Or don't be afraid of therapy. Therapy has such a like stigma around it, but I really feel like everybody in the world could benefit from therapy. And if that's like a resource that you're able to, you know, use, then I would so recommend using it, because it's so helpful for so many people. Otherwise, I would just say being open to being vulnerable and seeking out the resources that you can and getting the help that you might need. And then finding coping skills, you know, like whatever that may be. Like, find a good schedule and a good routine that helps you feel less overwhelmed with everything. Because at least for me, a lot of times my mental health goes down when I'm really overwhelmed and I just have too much going on. So if there's a way that you could find a good routine where, you know, like things are getting done but it doesn't feel like it's just so much on your plate, then that can be helpful. And then having coping skills, whether that's a bath or listening to music or having time to watch TV or go on a drive or hang out with friends or whatever it may be, like try to find a coping skill that is achievable for you. How do you plan to keep the kids calm on the drive to the new house on that long trip? I kind of touched on this already, but basically I'm gonna have an iPad or a tablet that they could watch TV. I'm gonna have snacks. We're gonna be stopping frequently. I'm gonna be playing nursery rhymes like over the radio in the car. I'm gonna have toys. Like, I'm gonna do the best that I can, but the fact of it is that they are not gonna be entertained. Like, they're gonna be frustrated, they're gonna be cramped, they're gonna be restless, if you will. They're gonna want to get out, but we just gotta get there. When are we getting the moving vlogs? Soon. Soon. We're gonna start packing. How are you feeling overall, mentally, physically? Just checking in on you. First of all, thank you for checking on me. I'm doing good. I would say that my stress levels are higher than normal just because there's so much going on, but really I'm still doing so good, which is just so crazy. It has been so wild to experience like postpartum in a completely different way than last time. Like, last time I was just so angry, so sad, so like helpless, I guess, and just feeling sorry for myself all the time. And this time I've really been happy. Like, I really have. I have my days, of course, because everybody has days and that's normal, but I've been doing really well. Physically, you know, I still struggle with my body image a lot, and, you know, I have ups and downs with my motivation going to the gym, but I need to get back to the gym. But I'm doing really well. What would you get for your next tattoo other than the one for Graham? I don't know. I know that I want a lot of floral stuff, and so this is my one for Bentley, and the one for Graham is either gonna be like here or like up on my arm here. And then I think that I'll just like connect empty space with, you know, other like floral tattoos. That's always what I've liked. Hardest thing about 2 under 2, 100% when they're both like screaming, crying at the same time, and like I can't calm either one of them down. Like, that's the hardest part, and I just like will feel very helpless, and I'm like, I don't know what to do anymore. Like, I've tried everything, neither one of them are calming down, and I just get very overwhelmed and overstimulated, and that's really hard. But a lot of times I just call my husband and he kind of calms me down. So what is something you think as a mom should be talked about more? I think our weaknesses. I think that people have such an expectation for moms to be perfect and not make mistakes and get it all right the first time, or you're a bad mom and stuff like that. And I think that if more moms talked about their weaknesses or their shortcomings or things that they aren't proud of but they grew and learned from, I think that there would be less judgment towards like everyday things. Like there's no way to be the perfect parent, and no matter what you do, your kids are gonna have complaints about it. No matter what you do, your kids are gonna grow up and be like, I don't like that you did that. There's so many things that I don't like that my parents did, but they're still good parents, you know? Like I can still look at it, especially now being a parent, and be like, okay, like they were doing that because that was what they thought was best, you know? And I can like see what they were trying to do. But I just think that if more people shared their weaknesses and their vulnerabilities when it comes to parenting, then people wouldn't expect so much perfection. Because when so much of what you see is the highlight reel and the perfect mom taking her kids to have the most perfect day, like it makes you feel like you're a shit mom because you either can't do that, or because you tried and failed, or because, you know, whatever the case may be. So I just think that if more people showed their weaknesses in real moments, that, I don't know, other parents would feel comforted, and people that don't have kids would understand more that it's not perfect, it's not easy, and we're all just doing the best that we can and learning as we go. Did you go to college? Yes, I did. I just didn't finish. I dropped out. Are you scared to move? I mean, kind of. We're moving away from everything we know. Like, I've never lived in the north, and it's just gonna be very different, but I'm really excited to move. There's a lot. I've always wanted to get out of the south. I literally told Charles when we got together, like, I will not stay in Oklahoma forever. Like, I'll stay here for now for you, but I'm not staying here forever. So it's always been a goal to get out of Oklahoma. So I'm more excited than I am scared, but I'm still scared to move away from the friends that I've made, from the family that we have here. I will be close to my mom, but it's a give and take, you know? Oh, signs I've taught Bentley. His main ones that he uses every day are milk, more, thank you, and please. Those are his main ones. Sometimes he does sorry. How did you get started doing TikTok? It was actually when the pandemic happened, like the very beginning of it, and I still worked at Starbucks at the time, and they sent us home for, it was either 2 weeks or a month, but I was out of work on like a paid leave, so I was just home all day, and I just started making TikToks because I was like, you know what, I'm so bored. But I really just enjoyed, you know, the comment sections, and TikTok was such a different like thing 3 years ago. Like, it was so much kinder, and it was a lot more of a community, and you would find your people, and like you would relate to each other, and people were just so kind, and they made me feel not alone in a time that I felt very alone. I had like 100K before I ever got pregnant with Bentley. I can't remember the exact number, but I know it was at least 100K before I got pregnant with Bentley. And then through getting pregnant and sharing my journey through pregnancy and motherhood and stuff like that, my TikTok grew more. And now I have a hard time posting on TikTok because I just feel like it is such a negative space. I feel like the only videos that do well are videos that are purposefully controversial and negative. And anytime I make happy videos, they don't do well. Anytime I make, you know, like sad videos or things like that, they do well. And I just don't like the way that TikTok fuels negative energy in people's lives, and I don't care for the comment section, and it's just really hard for me to post on TikTok because it's not fun anymore, and the passion that I had for creating content just doesn't exist there anymore. I still enjoy making content on Instagram and YouTube, but I just don't enjoy TikTok. And every time I try, because it is my job, every time I try to post on there, it's just like a punch in the gut because it just doesn't do well. And so it's hard because when it is your job, sometimes you do kind of have to care about views, and it's frustrating when it's like, I can't get 10,000 views on a video when I have over 300,000 followers. Why are none of my followers seeing my videos and stuff like that? So it's hard, and I don't have the same relationship with TikTok now that I did back then. But back then when I started, it was a really positive, amazing space for me, and I'm still so grateful that I did start, and so grateful for all of the people that have come into my life, you know, since then, and all of the people that follow me on any of my platforms. And I really don't think that my life would be what it is right now without TikTok. So I feel bad for not liking TikTok now, but it is what it is. It's not really so much the app that I don't like, it's just that there's too many people on the app, and people are just mean. And I'm a sensitive person. I've always been a sensitive person, and I never expected to get big, and I'm not even that big. Like, I don't have any millions of followers like some people, and I don't know how they do it, because I don't know how people can drown out hate so much. But I don't know, it's definitely hard. And when people want to start social media, I just kind of always say, like, amazing, but do be warned, you know what I mean? Like, it's really not for everybody, and it's really not easy. As much as people hate it when influencers say that, it's really not. It's hard on your mental health. It really is. And I have had to grow a lot to be able to kind of handle it. But I really had just started making videos about anything and everything, and just things that I felt were relatable, or just things that I thought were funny and people related, and here we are. Somebody said, why don't you get the IUD, the non-hormonal IUD? The reason is because there are still so many complications with that, and one of the things that they tell you about that is that the copper IUD is likely to make your periods heavier and your cramps worse. So if you already have heavy crampy periods, it's generally not advised to get that one, because it's gonna make them pretty unbearable. I already have really heavy periods and really like intense cramping, and there's a lot of complications that can happen with the IUD, and the insertion process terrifies me. The amount of time it takes for your body to stop trying to push it out terrifies me. Like, it's just not the right option for me. I have tried a bunch of different pills. I have heard plenty of horror stories about plenty of birth control methods, and it's really just not worth it. So I'm just educating myself on cycles and reproduction and how it all works, and when you're safe and when you're not safe. And I'm going to be tracking my cycles and taking ovulation strips every single day until I know when I ovulate. And if my cycle stays irregular, then I will always have to take them every day to make sure that I don't miss when I ovulate. But if my cycles regulate and they're regular, then I'll be able to, after a few months, kind of know when I ovulate, and then I'll just have to take the strips around that time to catch the peak and know the week ahead of it that I need to not partake in such activities, or just be careful when I do. But yeah, I'm just gonna take the natural family planning route, at least for now. And if I don't know, if I stay super paranoid or just, you know, don't trust it, then I'll talk to my doctor and see about birth control. But I just really don't think that the IUD is for me. I think if anything, it's probably gonna be the pill. Okay, and then the last question is, have you guys ever went through the roommate phase? If so, how did you work through it? So we've touched on this and talked about it in a different Q&A, one that I did with Charles, but we definitely did go through the roommate phase after Bentley. And I think that a lot of that was just because we didn't know how to be parents. We didn't know how to be married as parents, and it was really hard to figure out our new normal. And honest to God, a healthy part of a healthy relationship is sex, at least when you're married. And so it was really hard whenever I wasn't ready to do that yet. To feel the connection that you feel from that and be missing that was a little bit difficult. And I, as a person, am much more like affectionate on a day-to-day basis when we are, you know, active together. And so his love language really is affection and words of affirmation, and I'm just not a very lovey-dovey person overall, but I am more so lovey-dovey whenever, you know, we're doing that. So once we were able to kind of start having sex again, then it did help with the roommate phase. That's not always easy if you don't have a baby that sleeps very well, or if you co-sleep or things like that. But for us, Bentley always slept pretty well for the most part, so we would do it at night. Now with 2 kids, we do it during nap time if they're both napping at the same time, or we stay up late and do it when they're both sleeping. But other than that, I think that this time around our relationship has stayed much more healthy, because we kind of know what we're doing together as parents, in terms of like our parenting styles have aligned now, instead of trying to figure out how we both parent and come to a, you know, joint parenting style, if you will. Now we parent the same way, and like I have full faith that he's not going to do anything I'm uncomfortable with, and then the same vice versa. So it's much easier to just like trust each other in that aspect. And then we don't really, me and Charles really don't fight, we don't bicker. But we were a lot after Bentley, because I was so angry and depressed from struggling with PPD, and so he had a hard time coping with my anger that had nothing to do with him but was being taken out on him. And you know, like, that was my fault, and that was something that we had to work through and talk through. But this time that hasn't been a problem, so we haven't been bickering, we haven't been fighting. Things have been really well. We've been going on dates a lot, which is helpful, because we you know, have family that can watch the kids, so that's been helpful to go on dates. But I would just say, you know, like having deep conversations and like talking to each other and being affectionate with each other and intimate with each other, even if it's not sex, like even if it's like taking the time at the end of the day to like cuddle, talk to each other, watch a movie together, you know, like just find a form of intimacy to kind of remind you like, oh hey, this is why I love him, you know, like. And that's why I say to have deep conversations, because sometimes when you're so swallowed up in parenting, you're not really talking to each other. So talking to each other, going out, laughing together, you know, like things like that, just I feel like can help revive a relationship. But obviously sex is nice too. But that is all of the questions that I have for this week's video. I hope you enjoyed this little sit down chit chat Q&A video. I have just been very overwhelmed and didn't have it in me to make a whole like daily vlog, because things have just been difficult with the kids, and when the kids are awake they need my full attention, and when they're going through stuff I don't want to put a camera in their face when they're not having, you know, a good day. So this is what we're doing this week, and I hope you liked it. I hope I answered your questions well, and if you have any other questions, leave them in the comments, or you know, I'm always on Instagram, so you can always come over there and ask me. But I love you guys. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for all of your patience with me through all of my ups and downs, and I will see you guys next week.